Popular social media superstar, the renowned content creator, the serial risk taker, and undefeated fighter, introducing the problem child, Jake Paul!
Julio, Cesar, Chavez Jr.
That's the first nose. That's me. There's no way. That ain't gonna do anything.
You're doing really good. All right.
Before the fight was the early rounds could be decisive, and it is quite clear.
Leyenda continúa. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.
Not getting after by both guys. Nothing was left in the corners. Nothing was left in the gym.
Overall, Jake, how'd you feel in there?
I just felt flat, man. Not my best performance. I guess that happens in the sport. You know, you got to peak right at the right moment. You only get one night, one chance, and I messed that up, I guess. But didn't think I'd ever have to make one of these videos, but it happens, I guess. This is still the best job in the world. Thank you all for the support. This was an amazing event, and I'll be back. No worries, cuz.
Jake, I know there was a lot of talk about him and his power. You took his shots pretty well and you knocked him
Yeah,
down.
no, his power wasn't that crazy. He just had good speed, good combinations,
Yeah.
but Anderson and Tyron hit really hard, so I was used to that.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Boxing, man, you got to take it on the chin, but it was good. Some good moments in there. I just really couldn't get my game plan working. But hey, man, this is what the sport's all about. You win some in glorious fashion, and you lose some. And like I said out there, judging about my losses, because I think he was just really well prepared, and I think it was more.
With the highly anticipated showdown between Jake Paul and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. just days away, DAZN Boxing has turned up the hype by releasing an exclusive preview featuring direct interviews and commentary from high-profile guests. Among the voices raising expectations was UFC lightweight contender Arman Tsarukyan, who made it clear where his support lies. With Jake Paul, Tsarukyan seemed genuinely impressed by the 28-year-old YouTube-turned-boxer. Jake is a legend, Tsarukyan said. To start boxing so late and still show such solid skill, that's not easy. What caught the UFC fighter off guard the most wasn't just Paul's determination to silence his critics. It was a surprising agility and mobility. Especially for someone his size, I'm shocked at how big he is, Tsarukyan added. He's huge, he hits hard, and he moves like a real boxer. Tsarukyan believes Paul is fully prepared for the weekend and predicts he'll emerge victorious. Looking purely at the numbers, many might struggle to justify picking Jake Paul over the more experienced Chavez Jr., however. Given Chavez's recent performances and decline in consistency, there's a growing narrative, one that gives Paul a real shot at pulling off the upset. And Tsarukyan isn't the only major voice leaning toward Paul. Another surprise came from the world of boxing royalty, Oscar De La Hoya, the 6th Division world champion and current head of Golden Boy Promotions, recently dropped a jaw-dropping prediction of his own. With two of his fighters, Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez and Floyd Schofield, competing on the undercard, an entire event being co-promoted by Golden Boy, De La Hoya has more than just casual interest in this fight. In true Golden Boy fashion, De La Hoya decided to crank up the entertainment. A few days ago, the 52-year-old boxing icon released a cheeky prediction video, stripping off his robe and delivering his fight week picks in nothing but his underwear. It's fight week, Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. I'm giving you my predictions. Golden Boy style, baby, he said with a grin for the undercard. De La Hoya backed his own, naming Raul Curiel, Floyd Schofield, and Zurdo Ramirez as his favorites to win, however. Things took an unexpected turn when it came time for Oscar De La Hoya to predict the outcome of the main event. After a back-and-forth battle, Jake Paul takes a victory by split decision in the 12th round. De La Hoya announced, firmly declaring Jake Paul as a favorite. And so, the Jake Paul boxing experiment continues, rolling into yet another massive showdown this Saturday. The social media star turned fighter is set to face off against former middleweight champion Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. in what might be Paul's most dangerous and potentially credible opponent yet. This fight marks Paul's second consecutive bout against a former world champion, coming off his controversial November win over 58-year-old Mike Tyson. While Chavez Jr. is not 58, he's 39. The age gap is still significant. And more importantly, Chavez is over a decade removed from his prime as a top-tier boxer. Even at his peak, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. struggled to escape the shadow of his legendary father. Despite his talent, his career has been marred by inconsistency, controversy, and self-inflicted setbacks that derailed what could have been a much greater legacy. At the final press conference, Chavez Jr. didn't hold back. No, I don't think he's good. I think he tries. He trains hard, but he's not a good fighter. He said bluntly, he's definitely not a good boxer. If he were, everyone else on this stage would be a legend. Everybody knows that. In a way, this dynamic makes Chavez the perfect Paul opponent. Over the past few years, Jake Paul has carved out a controversial yet effective formula, feasting on aging fighters long past their primes, while generating huge business and media attention. Paul's journey began with a viral knockout of fellow influencer Essen Gibb, followed by a highlight reel KO of retired NBA player Nate Robinson. From there, Paul targeted former MMA stars, Ben Askren, Tyron Woodley twice, and Anderson Silva, none of whom were prime boxers, but all brought name value and hype. After a narrow split decision loss to Tommy Fury, Paul briefly shifted course. He tried his hand at fighting traditional boxers, stopping journeyman Andre August and Ryan Borland in the first round. While those bouts were typical for a boxer with fewer than 10 fights, they didn't attract the public the same way as previous high-profile matches had reignite interest. Paul returned to familiar ground, defeating bare-knuckle brawler Mike Perry, and notching to then came the Tyson fight, a box office hit, but a disappointment inside the ring. Paul dominated with cautious precision, never really pressing for a finish, and often looking as if he didn't want to hurt the iconic heavyweight. And now, we arrive at Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Chavez brings name value, experience, and a former world title. But he also fits the mold of a typical Paul opponent, past his prime, undersized for a cruiserweight clash, and vulnerable. He's a great fighter, Paul said at the final presser. I like big names, legendary names. He's on my path to a world championship. This is a tough test, a very tough test, but I'm here to challenge myself, do big things in the sport, and make a title run after I beat him on Saturday. To Paul's credit, he was reportedly close to signing a blockbuster fight with Saul Canelo Alvarez. But as it turns out, the Mexican superstar may have simply used Paul's name for leverage before signing a new 3-fight deal with Riyadh Season SO Now. We're back to a classic Jake Paul setup, but one that might carry slightly more danger than his typical UFC veteran matchups. Because unlike those previous opponents, Chavez Jr. has spent nearly his entire life inside the boxing ring. He may be faded, but he's still a fighter's fighter. And this time, Paul just might have earned it. And that's all for now. For the latest news, viral moments, fight breakdowns, and exclusive updates from the world of boxing, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a drop. Until next time, peace.